manga isn't your everyday typical necromancer BS. The manhwa starts with a heated battle between players in the game, against our protagonist. Unlike what we are used to in other gaming manhwas, our protagonist enjoys the thrill of battle in this game, and doesn't mind being seen as the enemy. Earlier on we are introduced to the game called The Lord, where our protagonist Rokan is facing off against a multitude of players using the Berserker class. We watch as our protagonist is easily going up against a huge number of players alone and besting them, with a thrilling smile on his face. This goes on for a while, until we are introduced to two of the most powerful guild members of Ragnarok, Zeus and Thor. The sight of them makes our protagonist more excited as he yells out to them to come and attack. The scene is cut to where we see an ominous-looking player that goes by the name Odin. There is literally a guild in this game that seems to be cosplaying as all the gods in Ragnarok. The arrival of Odin puts a strain on our protagonist. He is the only one that has put up an actual fight, leaving our protagonist defenseless. Then we are cut to a scene where our protagonist is kneeling on the floor defeated. The player Odin looks down on him and says, "What a shame." Given a last chance, he invites him to come under his wing, but our protagonist is relentless, and laughs and says to Odin, "Off." And then, he's killed by Odin. Our protagonist wakes up in his room, inside his gaming console, pissed and angry that he lost again. It seems our protagonist has been trying to go up against Ragnarok and their club but to no success. Annoyed, he slams on the floor. A few years ago this unique game appeared out of thin air and shocked the world. A perfect visual reality game with graphics and sensations that can barely be differentiated from reality. A world larger than Earth, coupled with AIs that speak and behave just like real people. In this world our protagonist was the strongest, first in ranking, first in solo combat ability, and the strongest SSS rank user within the Berserker class, and the king of violence Rokan. But upon the arrival of Odin everything changed. He lost his honor and has been bested by Odin in Ragnarok over 7 times. But, our protagonist is not giving up. He goes in and tries again but to no avail, because he is bested once more. But this time unlike before he was unable to keep his nickname, King of Violence, and is now no longer a ranker. Because of this Odin and his entire team no longer see him as a threat, and walk off because they have nothing to benefit from attacking him anymore. Our main character is in a dilemma, and feels useless, because all what he has worked for, has been stripped off from him by Odin and his group, and he swears to get it all back. Please don't forget to leave a like, cause if you are still watching, that means you most likely are enjoying the video, so please leave a like. The scene cuts to morning, where the protagonist wakes up to an alarm only to find out that he has regressed 3 years into the past before the release of the Lord game. Typical of most reincarnation plots. Although the difference with this particular manga series is that our protagonist is not afraid of a fight, and even enjoys it quite a lot. So you'll most likely be cheering him on while you are reading the chapters, and looking forward to how he progresses in his second chance at life. Also the fact that his preferred class is the Berserker class is a real icing on the tea. Astonished he seeks out a meeting with his friend to confirm what had happened. After his conversation with his friend, he couldn't believe, until he realized, this is an actual opportunity for a do-over. Because the Lord game hasn't even been released yet. Then our protagonist is seen in the gym practicing martial art and training, against the release of the new game. The Lord game is a console, and it takes the properties of somebody in the real world, and inserts the properties and physical abilities to the character in the game. So naturally, for someone who has better physical attributes in the real world, he would naturally have good physical attributes in the game as well. Our protagonist has 1 month left, so he trains himself before the release of the Lord game, in order to get his revenge against Odin and his people. A month later and our protagonist is seen in his room with a new console about to get his first dive into the Lord game. He picks the name Rokan, and the class Berserker. The game starts off in a burning city. It's a city that has been ambushed by goblins. A system window pops up. Would you like to begin the tutorial? You will not be able to obtain the tutorial reward if you refuse. Yes or no? Of course, he says with an exciting look in his eyes. On accepting the quest, a goblin appears and is about to attack Rokan. But without stuttering, Rokan takes his axe and cuts through the goblin in an instant. We are in a town, infested with goblins, and the goblins have destroyed everywhere and the town is on fire. Rokan defeated his first goblin, and received the title, Born Fighter. Born Fighter, you have ended an opponent who surpasses your level. Effect, strength increases by 1. In the Lord game there is something called the achievement system. It is a special characteristic of the Lord game. When one performs a special act or achieves something near impossible, it will either raise your stats or grant you a special effect. For the tutorial, the quest condition is to survive, avoid the goblins and escape the village. The tutorial does not give experience points, and it is also very difficult for a new player to face against 2 goblins simultaneously. Although, our regressed player has other tricks in mind. He calls it the perfect clearing method. We cut to the next scene where our protagonist is watching from a building as 2 goblins are chasing after a woman. Then he jumps down and attacks one of the goblins and deals a fatal blow. It turns out that his smart plan is to kill all the goblins in the town without leaving a single one alive. We see that the protagonist is not happy that he has to hide and ambush them because of his level, but it is important that he is able to clear all the goblins, in order to receive whatever achievement that comes with it. Some time passes, and Rokan has killed 9 goblins using this sneak attack method. But this method won't work any further, as the chief has noticed that their numbers have reduced, and then calls back for all the goblins to come to him for a more coordinated attack pattern. With this, our protagonist executes Plan B, because he already anticipated that this would happen. He goes into a nearby shop, where there are low-grade health potions and other buff potions and stocks up on them. With this he feels prepared as he goes out to face off against the chief goblin and the remaining minions. The battle starts with the chief goblin seeking his minions to attack Rokan. Our protagonist immediately pours all the potions on him and strengthens his stats to face off against the goblins. With this, he is able to kill the minions like they are all beneath him. And then he receives another notification: you have achieved the title, the Natural Fighter. You are the first to achieve this title. For context, any title he receives from here on, he's always the first one to receive it in the game, so that's out of the way. Please leave a like, thank you. Title effect: increases strength and dexterity by 3, increases critical rate by 5%, when fighting against 5 or more people. Our protagonist is only level 1, but already has stats to compete with a level 10 player in the Lord. A swarm of goblins then try to attack him on spot, but he cuts through them easily. Finally, what awaits is the boss fight. Immediately he's done, the boss tries to peek a sneak attack, and almost cuts his head off, but Rokan is able to dodge with his axe. We find out that the boss is a level 15 goblin chief. It's a match against Rokan and the boss, and Rokan seems to be on the defensive end. Dodging and weaving and barely able to keep up with the boss's attacks. He is much stronger and faster than a normal goblin, Rokan thinks. But then we find out that he was simply analyzing the goblin's attack pattern, and then he dashes up to him to attack and landed what seemed to be a solid attack. Unfortunately, Rokan was only able to cut his ear, and didn't damage the goblin much. Then the goblin grabs Rokan by the hand, and smashes him on the ground. Rokan takes a lot of damage, and is only left with 20% vitality. Then the goblin tries to crush Rokan's head, but Rokan quickly slides out of that tight situation. Rokan then realizes that the boss's defenses are outstanding, and that he can't deal a killing blow with his current stats. We are then cut to a scene where we see Rokan running away pathetically. He calls it a strategic retreat. Furious, the goblin chases after him. We then see Rokan in a building, on the floor, trying to catch his breath. Rokan, after catching his breath, then tears up a fire-resistant scroll, increasing his fire resistance by 30 for the next 10 minutes. Then, the monster bashes into the building, only to see Rokan looking pathetic. Rokan is attacked by the boss, and is backed up against the wall where he only has 10% vitality left. On the brink of death, Rokan threw his axe against the boss, but the boss is able to dodge, and laughs at Rokan. Only to find out that his axe wasn't meant for the boss, but was meant to cut the wood, holding the foundation of the building. Then the building collapses and falls on the boss's head. Rokan then jumped out of the building, barely surviving with 1% vitality left. Rokan is annoyed because, unlike before, he's having to depend on the strategies that people came up with in his past life, and then curses at Odin for making him experience this pain. In the midst of his thought, he's distracted by a notification that says, "You have completed the trial, an unbelievable accomplishment has been achieved. You have defeated an opponent 10 levels higher than yours. You have acquired the title Descendants of David. You are the first to earn this title." He then received another notification, of another achievement, 17-1 inch. And the final achievement, nothing is impossible. At this point let's just say he achieved a plethora of titles, and accomplishments, and chests. Please, let me know if you want a part 2. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video. I really do hope that you enjoy this manhwa. The manhwa has released 49 chapters so far. Our protagonist Rokon goes on to get many more accomplishments, and takes many more risky paths that makes the manga very interesting, and binge-worthy. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because it will really help me to post more mangas like this. I really want to appreciate everyone who liked, and commented on the previous video. You're awesome. There are a couple more new mangas that I would like to post but I don't really have the time. So, liking and sharing the video would really help to encourage me to post more new mangas like this. With that said, it is Bluemelon, as always, and please, have a nice day. Bye.